Hello, it's Kira. I'm recording on my phone, so the sound will be not the same as it usually is, but I hope it's okay to listen to for the moment. I have not been very active with making videos, and I'm still getting settled after traveling, but I plan to read you some poetry just now, and I hope that will be enjoyable. And thank you for your patience with me whilst I hopefully pick up speed again with making videos. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so I have a book here. It's actually 1:30 a.m. at the moment, and I cannot sleep, so I thought, well, I can just read some poetry. So the book is Modern Irish Poetry, an anthology, edited by Patrick Crotty. Let me see. What will I read? I hadn't chosen any poems yet. I'm just flicking through the book. You know, I find that a lot of Irish poetry sometimes can be very down to earth, as Irish people often are. And I don't mean in a nature way, I mean like sort of describing, kind of life. And sometimes I find that actually with poetry I want to be taken away. So I don't always like those kind of poems. But let's have a read of this. We'll see what we think. This is by Matthew Sweeney. And this is called To the Building Trade, which sounds to be the exact type of poem that I was just describing, but upon glancing at it, it looks like it has some sentences that might be nice. Here's to the building trade, to the renovations and facelifts, the fake Victorian facades, to the dust-muffled din that stops on Sundays, to the men that make it, especially one from Dalston who, after a pint or two and a ploughman's, fell. But the scaffolding stayed up till the flats were clean. Here's to the off-duty cabbie in the first-floor kitchen, who saw him splatter on the pavement, to the mate with the trowel staring down, his questions unanswered, to the rent increase and the officer who set it. Here's to the young widow whose home's in this city where migrant scaffolding, wherever she moves, will find her walls sometime. Oh, that's the end of it. I thought it moved on into the other side, but actually that's a new poem. Well, to be honest, that poem was not my cup of tea, so let's find another author. Oh man, some of these are dark. Who's this then? This is Derek Mahan, born in Belfast in 1941. This one is called An Image from Becket for Doreen. In that instant, there was a sea far off as bright as lettuce, a northern landscape, and a huddle of houses along the shore. Also, I think, a white flicker of gulls and washing hung to dry. The poignancy of those backyards and the grave digger putting aside his forceps. Then the hard boards and darkness once again, but in that instant, I was struck by the sweetness and light, imagining what grave cities, what lasting monuments given the time. They will have buried my great-grandchildren and theirs beside me by now, with a subliminal bat squeak of reflex lamentation, our knuckle bones litter the rich earth, changing second by second to civilizations. It was good while it lasted, and if it only lasted the biblical span, required to drop 6 feet through a glitter of wintry light, there is no one to blame. Still, I am haunted by that landscape, the soft rush of its winds, the uprightness of its utilities and school children to whom in my will, this I have left my will. I hope they have time and light enough to read it. Excuse my yawning. I love that. I thought that was so pretty. It was very... What's the word? Oh, this word keeps escaping me. I've been trying to think of it on and off over the past few weeks. The word for when poetry brings to life. Conjure. That's the word I'm going for. It really conjures up some imagery and feelings. Let's try another one by this author. This is called Lives for Shantini. First time out, I was a torque of gold and wept tears of the sun. That was fun, but they buried me in the earth 2,000 years, till a labourer turned me up with a pick in 1854 and sold me for tea and sugar in Newmarket on Fergus. Once I was an oar, but stuck in the shore to mark the place of a grave when the lost ship sailed away. I thought of Ithaca, but soon decayed. The time that I liked best was when I was a bump of clay in a Navajo rug, put there to mitigate the too godlike perfection of that merely human artifact. I served my maker well. He lived long to be struck down in Tucson by an electric shock. The night the lights went out in Europe, never to shine again. So many lives, so many things to remember. I was a stone in Tibet, tongue of bark at the heart of Africa, growing darker and darker. It all seems a little unreal now that I am an anthropologist with my own credit card, dictaphone, army surplus boots, and a whole boatload of photographic equipment. I know too much to be anything anymore. And if in the distant future someone thinks he has once been me as I am today, let him revise his insolent anthology, or teach himself to pray. Ah, that is so pretty. Oh. Excuse me, I yawned again. Sometimes if I'm leaving a voice message for a friend, or recording myself as I am now, if I yawn, I always think, do they know I'm yawning, or do they think I'm just making a really odd noise? Hence why I explained that I yawned. Derek Mahan is the author of his last poems. Gosh, he's really good. Very, very nice. I must come back to him sometime. Huh. This one looks interesting. This is Eamon Grennan. I've never seen that last name before. Grennan. It's like Brennan but with a G. That's new to me. He was born in Dublin, but he was educated at University College Dublin and also Harvard University. And he currently lectures in Vassar College in New York State. Huh. Oh. So, this is called Four Deer. This is what caught my eye. Four deer lift up their lovely heads to me in the dusk of the golf course I plod across towards home. They're browsing the wet grass the snow has left, and statued stare at me in deep silence, and I see whatever light there is gather to glossy pools in their 8 mild, barely curious but wary eyes. When one at a time they bend again to feed, I can hear the crisp, moist crunch of the surviving grass between their teeth. Imagine the slow lick of a tongue over wickering lips. They've come from the unlit winter corners of their fright to find a fresh season, this early gift, and stand almost easy at the edge of white snow islands, and lap the grey-green, sweet, depleted grass. About them hangs an air of such domestic sense, the comfortable hush of folk at home with one another, a familiar something I sense in spite of the great gulf of strangeness we must look over at each other. Tails flicker white in thickening dust, and I feel their relief at the touch of cold snow underfoot, while their faces nuzzle grass as if, like birds, they had crossed unspeakable vacant wastes with nothing but hunger shaping their brains and driving them from leaf to dry leaf. Sour strips of bark, under a thunder of guns and into the cold comfort of early dark. I've seen their straight, despairing lines cloven in snowfields understormed, an Indian file of famished natives, poor, unprayed for wanderers through blinding chill, seasoned castaways in search of home ports, which they found at last here on winter's edge between our houses and their trees. All of a sudden, I've come too close. Moving as one mind, they spring in silent waves over the grass, then crack snow with sharp, hard snaps, light-footing it into the sanctuary of a pine grove where they stand looking back at me, a deer-shaped family of shadows against the darker arch of trees and this rusting dusk. When silence settles over us again and they bow down to browse, the sound of grass being lipped, bitten, meets me across the space between us. Close enough for comfort, they see we keep instinctively our distance, sharing this air where a few last shards of daylight still glitter in little melt pools or spread a skin of brightness on the ice stiffening towards midnight under the clean magnesium burn of a first star. Wow. That is unreal. Just how beautiful is each line. Oh, that is so atmospheric and just absolutely lovely. trying to find poems that, of course, that I like, but that also aren't horrendously dark. Some of them really are. Not that it's necessary to hide the darkness of the world, but sometimes, especially before bed, as is the case with me, sometimes you just don't want to really get down in the darkest crevices of life. Okay. What shall we do? What shall we do? Oh, this looks interesting. Okay. Brian Coffey is the name of this author. Oh, born in Dublin in 1905. Wow. It is called For What, For Whom, Unwanted. Oh, it looks to be part of a larger collection of poems. Is that true? Not sure. Anyway, this just says number 1. And where no snow had fallen to cover just sleeping earth, where no green awakening promised highway with sun-danced laughter, in such a matte, grey place of unexpectant waiting, backward staring, though saffron white and purple reflected from bright eyes, lit up that dust and patience, waste and empty game, for what it was. Suddenly, he was a snowfield. Suddenly bright flowers stirred. Suddenly a world was ready for her walking through. Wow, that feels like a verse dropped in out of the ether from the middle of nowhere. And I liked it. But it sort of felt like it was neither coming nor going. There's no start or finish. And then it says number 8. So the first one, what I just read, said 1 and this says 8. So that's why I think it's 2 verses from this collection. Because it does say from in small letters and then capitalized, for what, for whom, unwanted. Maybe it says more here. No. Yawning again. Anyway, I'll read 8. Consider his song. Never to have seen, never to have given, never to have taken. Ever vain homing, ever what is new and not her. Ever the torn heart scribed, you. Never enough seen, never enough given, never enough taken. Never departure, never what is new and not her. Ever no change, saying always, you. Gosh. That is intriguing. They feel like little calling cards almost, like you, or like I don't want to say business cards, but kind of like you pick one of these up and you kind of go, what's this about? What else? What is this attached to? But it's kind of nice having it unattached as well. Anyway, I'm actually getting sleepy now, which is good. So, I think I will leave it at that. I promise that I will pick up speed soon and start putting out more members-only content, or any members-only content. Because I guess this is my first proper members-only thing that I've put up. And I apologize for that. I was wanting to do like a really good first video, you know, like something special, which is a good idea in theory, but you know, for me sometimes I need to accept that, you know, what I want might not transpire, so best to just do something rather than waiting for the perfect thing that then is nothing, if you get me. Anyway, yeah, I hope that this was enjoyable, and thank you for keeping me company. I really do think I can fall asleep now. It's 2 a.m., so that's not too late. Yeah, I have not being able to get into a good sleeping pattern since coming back from being away in America. Anyway, good night from me. Thanks for being here.